Through his ex-handle, M. Kainerugaba, the first son of this country, but also the Chief of Defense Forces, Muhoozi Kainerugaba has mastered the art of expressing himself, leveraging on the freedom of expression and speech as codified in the laws of Uganda. Today, we make an assessment of the series of tweets earlier that were described by the spokesperson of PLU, Patriotic League of Uganda, as humor from the person of the CDF, and now we see a series more that talk about very many public interest opinions that we need to talk about as a country, but also as citizens of the world. Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV. I am Philip Mulisa. Today, I host a panel of excellent, exquisite Ugandans with a lot of ideas and views, but also contradictions in matters of politics. We shall see that along the conversation, but in the meantime, I invite them to talk to you, to give you their very detailed CVs, or they can't be completed on this show when I look at them. But we get to learn more from them, and later we get into the depth of the conversation. I invite the man on my immediate left to talk to us.
Yes, thank you very much, Philip, and Civic Space for hosting me today, and my brothers and the lady. Yeah, and we've seen recently what the great general, actually, there was some refer to him, the CDF.
You seem to be so obsessed to the general. I've not asked about the general.
I'm just introducing myself. I'm introducing myself.
Is general part of your introduction?
Yeah, he is.
Goodness.
And I can't wait actually to dive into what he has been tweeting, and what we as young citizens, as young people of this country, think about his words. And as I'm handing the mic over, I'm Makana Kennedy Amhachi. I'm a youth leader, I'm an activist, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a tech startup founder. Thank you very much, Philip.
Thank you so much, Makana Kennedy Ndiamhachi. He has a lot to say about the general. I don't know what the depth of that is, but we'll wait to hear from him in the next couple of minutes. The lady, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. I would start by, my name is Ayo Patricia Elubu, a national youth leader in the FDC party. I also serve as a guild leader I served as a guild leader and currently pursuing my medical profession in Lubaga Hospital. About the general, surely we have a lot to say. But before that, I could give chance to my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Ayo Patricia, a medic. I don't know whether medics align well with the politics, but a way to hear from
politics is part of life.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all around.
Ndugu, karibu.
Asante. Thank you so much, comrade, for having me on this show. It's my 100th time, I don't know, but always glad. Every invitation represents new perspectives, a new opportunity to meet friends and share views about the future of our country. And I'm glad to be on this show once again. Good afternoon, our viewers.
Thank you, Roy Rugumayo, very powerful man. If you've heard of the Bold Vision, if you've heard of UNSA, if you've heard of the East African Students Association, a lot of things to talk about him, but that's not why we are here. We are facing the general today. Last but not least, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Philip, for inviting a very powerful, youthful panel. And it's my pleasure to share my wisdom and my thoughts with the panel. Good afternoon, our viewers and listeners. I'm Lindu Awalidu Lubega. I'm formerly a youth leader in the Forum for Democratic Change Party. I'm a social worker by training. Currently in the party of the FDC, I serve as the Deputy Secretary for Publicity in the FDC party.
Deputy Secretary for Publicity, you're most welcome. I told you the CVs are quite heavy. If we spoke only about the CVs, probably the show would be about that, but we need to speak about the country and where we head. Colleagues, we have the Chief of Defense Forces of the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and indeed the country of Uganda. He is the first son of the Republic of Uganda. The two make him a very important person in the day-to-day running of the country, and like I mentioned at the start, you and I can say we have freedom of speech, freedom of expression in the country, and he has mastered the art of using this freedom to express himself on things that some will say are controversial, others will say he's right and he has a right to do that, and I want to hear from what you have to say about that. But look, this is the internet, and we continue talking about the information age and the 21st century. Many years ago we used to call it the .com era. I don't know how people term it today. Before we get into the specifics of the journal, I want to hear from you the effect or the impact of the internet on the political space of this country. How would you assess this in your own perspectives? I'll start with you, Kenneth.
Few months ago, actually, most people have been saying that the internet, actually digital activism, does not bring change. But in July and during the Uganda Parliament exhibition, we saw that internet plays a very, very big role, especially X. Tables have been banged and even offices have been moved through digital activism, through social media. And this is why when a senior military officer makes a tweet, the whole country is, is on standby. Everyone is waiting to see. Everyone is talking about it. So social media has refined our politics, because as people and in this country, as we all know, that we are not under democratic governance. So the people have used social media as their guns. The oppressed have used social media to defend themselves. And so I believe that social media is the only tool, is the only gun so far that our people, we the oppressed, that can use to air our voices out, since our leaders are not hearing.
How has the oppressor let that gun be in your hands yet it shoots at him?
Come again?
How has the oppressor allowed that gun to be in your hands who aim to shoot at him?
Well, you see, most of these social media apps and sites, they don't belong to the oppressors. They belong to the oppressed. And this is why Elon Musk bought X. He wanted to give us a freedom of speech, which he gave to us. I can tweet anything, I can say anything.
Thank you so much, Kennedy. Tables have been, banged and offices changed, and indeed the freedom of speech courtesy of Elon Musk is prevailing in this country. Interesting to learn. The lady, the impact of internet on the political space of this country.
Well, internet, I could say, is a very vital tool to this country, because first and foremost, for anything to go viral, like my previous speaker has spoken, it must pass through internet. Internet is the easiest way. It can go everywhere in the shortest time possible. Now, I could relate it to General's tweet that he actually tweeted a few days ago. And we all see the impact that it has been massive as we see people's responses towards it. So I believe that internet should, if misused, can actually bring a fire outbreak or something that is really huge. You get.
If misused, it can bring about terrible things in our society.
Yeah.
That's Trisha for you. And Roy, the internet, freedom of speech in Uganda, how is it impacting our politics and how we run our day-to-day lives?
Well, it's amazing how much work, how much conversations happen on the internet on a daily basis, and not only in the context of Uganda's politics, but all over. there's the red car phenomena, where if I was to ask you how many red cars have you seen this week, you might not know or remember. But if I said for every red car you see, I'll give you 100,000. Definitely, by the end of today, you'll have seen 20 or even more. Why? It's what you'll be looking out for. So on the internet, or even on X itself, or the other social media, there is as much content about medicine, but it's not what perhaps you're looking for. Those who are looking for content on medicine have it in plenty. There is content on child care. There is content on politics and governance, and particularly our context, I mentioned could have been the first show of this year Youth Roundtable, and we're discussing how the year is likely to roll out in regard to politics. And I said on that show, hosted by Comrade Chidega, that we shall see so much work on the internet regarding advocacy and less of the confrontational street. And I think that's how the year has rolled out generally. But also it shows progress in as far as the health of our conversation goes. We can debate the quality of what people post, but as long as it is within their expression, their advocacy, no matter how much we might disagree, that you cannot advocate well at undressing, or you cannot advocate well doing this, but it's still within protected speech of the 1995 Constitution and other laws, and therefore it's acceptable. And I think even moving forward, we shall see more influence of the internet on the politics, on advocacy of other issues, on corruption, and all these other spheres that affect our lives.
Yes, thank you so much. And Kitunoti says, moving forward, we shall see more influence from the internet. We're going to see that and how it plays out. Worried. The internet and the politics. And you sit in a very critical office, publicity. How has it influenced your office and indeed the entire political sphere as you see it?
Thank you very much. Internet has made my work easier, reaching out to over 146 districts. Actually, we can generate a message where we want to communicate to all our grassroots branches. Within 1 minute, information will be all over the place. Secondly, it has made Ugandans to become journalists. Whoever has a smartphone is a journalist. You don't need even to go into a training school to acquire skills. You just sit on your smartphone and create content, which content can move across the board. So we credit it that it is now become faster. Before the advent of social media, we had mass media, which was very expensive, and also which could not be accessed by every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But now, social media even influences the mass media.
Definitely.
Mass media picks the content from social media. So it is the engine that drives the mass media. Whatever you see on TV, it is generated from somewhere. Like the Twitter, we are all discussing. It was just a Twitter message, which has now become a point of reference. We are going to discuss it. Every media house is discussing it. So cut us over that. So it has really improved the delivery of message, and also bringing on board the people. It has also bridged the gap between the uneducated and the educated. When you go to my village where I come from in Masaka, people, even however illiterate they are, they can also communicate. They have a platform where they can contribute, whether in a WhatsApp group, whether on TikTok, they can create a video and communicate and air out their views, such that even we who are the elite, the political elite, can also communicate and have the same wavelength with them. So in my own view, it has bridged the gap between the elite and even the semi and all the illiterate, the completely illiterate. So
very interesting you mentioned, and very important. So you mentioned that it has created a balance of platforms where the elite, the semi-elite, and our people at the grassroots can actually engage at the same level and indeed have a view heard across. Friends, very many months ago, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba made a couple of posts. I think then we were still calling it Twitter, and among them were posts that talked about Kenya, and we could move in around there. There were posts that talked about him becoming the president of the country. There are posts about him, going into Russia and assisting that country in the war with Ukraine. A lot. And there was a lot of debate and conversation about these posts then. Later, Mr. Andrew Mwenda, who is the spokesperson of the Patriotic League of Uganda, came out in one of the interviews he had after that to say that this was an expression of humor. The general was just being humorous as a person, and he has a right to do so. And indeed, he gave examples of the many other tweets about the beauty of African ladies and the relationship between Uganda and Rwanda, a lot. And it all ended out there. People thought maybe the general was being funny. And yeah, I mean, how do you capture Nairobi in 2 days or 2 weeks? That's being funny. Today, we have posts on the same account of the CDF of this country that talk about the leadership of this country, how it should be, when it is going to be what, and who is going to be what. In our laws, somewhere in the EPDF Act, it says a general of the army, an active soldier in this country, is not allowed to speak or express political or partisan political views. I want to pick your view because I have a series of the tweets, and some of them are so interesting and others, I would say, relative. What is your assessment, and indeed, do you think, in your view, all of you give me your opinion on this, is it okay for public servants, public officials, policemen, military officers, irrespective of the law, should we allow them to have personal opinions and views, whether political, whether economic, whether social culture, aired out while they occupy those particular offices? And indeed, how can they impact the society they live in, especially the country they serve? Kennedy.
First and foremost, we should know that the country we are living in is run by a family. A family that does not believe in democracy and the constitution. And actually, it's very unfortunate to see that we are still having these conversations, because we've been seeing what has been happening over time. We saw what happened to General David Sejusa, how he was treated, General Henry Tumukunde, and for the last 20 years, General Muhoozi has been the CDF. Even when he was second lieutenant, he used to...
Kennedy, let's be on record. General Muhoozi has been
for the last
CDF
20 years, General Muhoozi has been the CDF.
Qualify your statement.
Let me repeat it again. for the last 20 years, General Muhoozi has been the CDF. And even when he was second lieutenant, he was part of the high command meetings, UPDF high command meetings. And you see, all this happening, it shows you where we are as a country. If it's the, actually we are in a country that does not believe in the constitution. We have a constitution, but it's not working.
Do you believe in the constitution?
I believe in the constitution.
You are part of this country.
I'm part of this country. But the leaders that we have don't believe in the constitution. This is why when we go out to peacefully protest, we are tortured, we are arrested and everything. You know, even the police does not allow us to, even after notifying them, it doesn't give us actually the right to vote, to protest. So, you can't rule out that military men have personal opinions. However, the act, actually the law, the UPDF Act is very clear. No serving military officer should, not may, but should come out to express political affairs. But we've seen a serving military officer, high-ranking, a general, moving around the country. Some people called it a campaign, which was not. It was not a campaign. And it's unfortunate that everyone kept quiet. Nobody said anything. Those who are part of it, you know, several high-ranking officials supported it. And you see where we are. Philip, it's very unfortunate that after 5 years, we have to go into an election. We have to be manipulated into an election that wastes taxpayers' money in a country that doesn't follow the constitution.
What would you rather have?
Thank you, Kennedy, and I think we beg to have more of that conversation later in the show. I want to pick on Patricia here because things seem so unusual, like they should be. Tricia,
Yes.
do you believe public officials, not just in the military, people in maybe Ministry of Health, public servants, should they be allowed an opinion and indeed express themselves politically out there?
Well, my opinion, I could say, would be guided by the Constitution of Uganda, because it's really very clear that all public officials should never engage in active politics. But here is an evidence of even the most, army, military officials, who are even the topmost generals, participating in active politics and nothing is done about it.
Tricia, you are a Democrat.
Yes.
You believe in the freedoms. What happens to the freedoms of these people? The freedom of speech and expression.
I believe in freedom, and the freedom of speech and expression surely is something that must be demonstrated in all countries. But I could promise you that if the Constitution is clear about it, we need to respect it. If you really want to participate in active politics, then you must follow the Constitution. First resign, and then you come as a civilian. That is how it should be.
Wow. Thank you so much. Mr. Rugumayo, public servants, military men, policemen, medical doctors on government payroll, prisons officers, do they have, in your opinion, should we give them opportunity to express their views, their opinion, most especially political ones, because these seem to be the most, controversial in our society today? Should we give them opportunity to express their political views out there?
Well, it's not just my opinion, but it's just logic that these people are citizens of this country, and they choose to serve the country in uniform. They don't lose their citizenship. But then there are two schools of thought regarding that matter, and you'll find it in very deep expression, especially in the conversations around the naming of the UPDF, schools of thoughts emerged, especially to one, that the army should be more or less like robots to simply take orders and follow through, musururu moja and all that. And the second school of thought was that the army should be alive to the makings of the state. They should be alive to the aspirations of the people themselves. They should be alive to the nature of our history and the future that we aspire for as a country. And it was agreed that whereas the army or the armed forces cannot be partisan, they should be apolitical. They should be alive to the politics. Because the nature of our problems were political in nature. The disunity based on religion, on tribe, were deep political questions. The socio-economic transformation of the country, the building of a country based on the pillars of democracy, a broad-based kind of democracy, these were political questions. And if you're to have a military that serves the interests of these people, it cannot be divorced from the politics of the day. It cannot be divorced from the questions of the day, the stability of the people. These are political questions. These are deeply rooted political questions. And to have an army that serves these interests, they must be alive to these questions. And therefore, that's why you find the military involved in the stabilization and pacification of some regions of this country where there have been instability. That's why you'll find the military very much involved in poverty alleviation programs. In the Operation Wealth Creation, you'll find them stabilizing fishing and such issues on the lake. You'll find them in road construction. Why? Because these are questions that are relevant to the socio-economic transformation of the country. And the army cannot be divorced from these issues. Okay? The issues of the unity of the people. And you know, so much instability was based on that. The question of wealth, cattle, milk, okay? all these are deep questions that are relevant to the progress of the people. And to say you want an army that lives in the barracks and is simply waiting to take orders of yes or no, we shall not have understood the background or even the preamble of our own constitution that clearly states that we are aware of our turbulent past, that we are aware of the nature of governance that we have lived in, that we are aware that as a people we aspire for better. And in all that conversation, you think the ones are legitimately armed to protect our legitimate interests should not be involved in all that? I think you'd be wrong.
Wow, worried. I know you listen to Royce so keenly. And through it all,
are you setting me up?
he tells you it would completely be wrong to put the army out of the activity of this nation, because in the end they're involved in making that we're doing safe and meaningful. What's your comment on that?
Thank you very much. Fast forward, during the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution, on the day when the Constitution was launched, Mr. Museveni had this to say. He thanked the Constituent Assembly delegates for coming up with the legislation, but he said he was not happy with two things which the constituency assembly delegates never put a lot of attention to. One was the issue of land, but for the interest of this show, it was the UPDF. Constituency assembly delegates thought it wise to change the name of the National Resistance Army to the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Mr. Museveni wanted the name of the Uganda Army to be NRA, to remain as NRA, just like NRM, NRA. So the constituency delegates wanted a force that reflect the will of the people of Uganda, and that's how they came up with the Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF. The reason why I've cited that out was that Mr. Museveni is actually very deliberate on fulfilling his long-standing desire of making the People's Army an NRM outfit, an NRA, or even more or less a personal outfit of him. Just like my colleague Makana said, he observed that we are under a family rule. So NRA, what you call UPDF, is a family. It is the Saleh. You see Saleh, you see the son, are the one in charge. It is a family thing, a family affair. So for him, it is. Who is the CDF? The CDF is the son, meaning he's in charge. He actually had to allocate most of the powers that are vested in the commander-in-chief in the office of the CDF, meaning this is their thing, their property. So even when the C8 delegates saw it wise to come up with Article 208, which was amended in 2005, which bars serving military officers from participating in partisan politics, they thought that for the issue of neutrality and even professionalism, the army should stay away from the politics of the day. Museveni said no, it must, just like my colleague has said, the army must. To do what? Tell me, what is the relevance of having 10 members of parliament in parliament? What are they doing in a partisan parliament? What have we ever heard of anything that is tangible? Ever since the 10 MPs were inserted into that constitution, ever since they have been in parliament for about 40 years or 30 years, that parliament has existed. We have never had anything glaringly visible from the 10. But they are there ostensibly to protect the interests, to showcase even to Ugandans that the army is in charge of you.
Let me say this. When you talk about the 10 UPDF MPs in parliament, one, they will not be seen to say a lot because these are listening posts in parliament. But look,
then what is the rationale of having an MP who doesn't speak?
In parliament,
do you have
we
robots?
discuss the law and indeed the politics. And remember, security of this country, which is in the hands of the UPDF, is a political issue, because you cannot dissociate security from the politics. It is the politicians that determine the security. It is the politicians that are in charge of giving the orders we talked about earlier. So they are there to listen to what they can implement.
Then what was the rationale of having the Constituent Assembly delegates coming out to legislate and to write that constitution that we have now, including even coming up with the UPDF Act? It would be the UPDF sitting in that parliament to legislate on our behalf. But if we said we are demilitarizing the army, the politics, we have even put army to be subordinate to civilian authority, it would come out clearly, but not this window shopping the way Museveni is doing. So in our view as FDC, we believe Mr. Museveni is trying to showcase to Ugandans that the army is in charge, even if there is a constitution that bars The constitution is actually selective. The government is selecting, the state is selective in applying the law. During Sejusa and Tumukunde, the law came for them. But during the son, the law is very silent on him. So, because it is serving their what? Their interests. So, for us, we believe...
Do you think General Muhoozi should be, at this point in time, prosecuted?
Absolutely. Absolutely, he would be in Luzira by now. If we had a country that follows the rule of law and constitutionalism, Muhoozi is a candidate for Luzira. He would be in Luzira because he has breached, including the last tweet. It is a clear evidence that he has violated Article 208, which bars serving army officers from meddling into partisan politics.
Thank you so much. Wow. In his words, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba is candidate for Luzira prison. Wait to see how that... Makana, I want to read something here that should make you very happy. And he mentioned tweets, I'll call them ex-posts. I would like to announce that I will not be on the ballot paper in 2026. Almighty God told me to focus on his army first. So I fully endorse President Yoweri Museveni in the next elections. That is a post on the X account of Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the first son and CDF of this country. You should be very happy that he's not standing.
Should he?
You know, in this country, the word happy is rarely used. Actually, I'm not happy. I'm just the way I am. First and foremost, because actually it's even terrible that God has been included in all these countries' circus. Yesterday I saw what Honorable Balaam said, that God said that Muhoozi would be president in 2026, and after God changed his mind. So we are dealing with blasphemy this side, another side we are dealing with bad governance, corruption,
and the fellow politicians.
Exactly, that's what we are dealing with. And to us who are on this side of the fence, we saw it that General Muhoozi was not going to run for president. What people have been calling the MK movement, PLU, running around the country like stray dogs, it was just a family fallout. And in the end, we've seen General Saleh and Mr. Museveni trying to restrain General Muhoozi. And that's why he was even appointed as CDF. He has been CDF all this time.
But he was appointed.
But he was now given a formal title. Formal titles don't work in this country. That's why you have Mr. Museveni, General Saleh, and Muhoozi running the country. Formal titles don't work. We have a vice president, we have a prime minister. But when Mr. Museveni leaves the country, do you expect him to leave it to the vice president? No.
Where does he leave it?
He leaves it to his family. He has a brother who sits in Gulu. And he's laughing, he's in the system, he knows the things.
Even the Prime Minister went to Gulu to get blessings from the...
You see how the things work? Even the speaker herself, she can kneel down for the man in Gulu. So,
you guys have chosen rumor mongering.
It's no longer rumor mongering. Actually, some of us are very young, but we've seen the things. We've seen how the things are running in this country. And it's unfortunate that we don't have good governance. This is not the country that we want. A country where a family, a set of people sit on a dining table and decide what is going to happen.
Wow. Trisha, General Muhoozi says he will not stand, and I know there are very many comments from you and indeed the Forum for Democratic Change about his earlier tweet that he was supposed to stand for presidency, and indeed he was the next president of this country. He's pulled out. FDC should be so happy and indeed focus now on the main goal.
Wow. Literally, I could say it's mockery for this country. It's so disappointing that Uganda has turned out to be the worst country in Africa. where anyone does whatever they want to do at any time of their choice. And no one will come up to maybe scrutinize it or even take an action about it.
Trisha, that's freedom. And that's democratic.
It's not freedom at all. Because if others do who are not in the military, you will see how they are brutalized. So which kind of freedom is that? I could give you an example of a few months ago when people went to demonstrate, more of a peaceful demonstration. But you saw how they were brutalized. Is that freedom to you? So it is really not freedom. And I could say it is something else, but not freedom. General Muhoozi's tweet, I could say, has a very big impact to Uganda's socio-economic development and even politically. Truth of the matter is, the family of Mr. Muhoozi, the family of Mr. Museveni, has turned Uganda into a monarchy, something like that. They want it to be this kind of leadership of like a monarchy, which I believe it is not what we had earlier and Ugandans actually want. So to me, that tweet is just a demonstration. I could say he has retrieved, because previously, if we look at his previous tweets, there's a tweet where he said no civilian will rule this country. It's either an army man or a policeman. So looking at how people reacted to it, I think that was just, I could say it was an action, it was a reaction from what people said previously due to his previous tweet.
Wow. Thank you, Roy. General Muhoozi had come out to be a threat to the incumbency, to the continuation of President Museveni. The NRM must be relieved of the pressure, not so?
Not really. General Muhoozi, from the MK movement and from the Patriotic League of Uganda, have been vocal advocates for patriotism. And that is, as you may be aware, the third pillar of the NRM. They have moved around the country, rallying people to love Uganda, to love Africa, to be agents of the integration of East Africa. That has been generally the core message of the PLU. Their other advocacy has been on issues around corruption and fighting corruption and all that. That is on the list of the 10-point program of the NRM as number 7 or 9, one of the two. So there is no internal contradiction within the NRM or between NRM and PLU. And I really pity those who have a misconception that even in the first place there was pulling of ropes between NRM and PLU because there is a consensus internally and in the NRM and within the PLU. As you may have seen,
which meeting resolved that?
There is internal consensus. It doesn't even need meetings. The NRM is a movement of not even a tea party, as you may see some, but a movement of people who believe in Pan-Africanism, in patriotism, in the socio-economic transformation of this country, and in the broad-based democracy that we stand for. And whoever believes in those, that's why you see DP is part. The group that was led by General Moses Ali is part. apart. Very many groups came together. Those who have strong belief in those 4 core principles. And the likes of Among, the likes of Tayebwa, who saw that those principles are not reflected within the FDC, have since joined the NRM, where we corely believe in that. And the endorsement of the PLU leadership of NRM, as you may know, the Secretary General is an NRM member of Parliament. The chairperson is a district chairperson of the NRM.
Is a brother to Museveni. Say it.
So there is a district chairperson of the NRM.
A family thing.
So there is no contradiction. It is simply a coming together of forces that believe in the goodness of this country.
Thank you. Worried. You see, it's interesting that the FDC, at least when I hear from my brother here and sister, they say you people are not happy, but I know you sit in an office that does a lot of communication. What are you people saying in having General Muhoozi out of the contest and now having to face the old man again?
And by the way, my office receives privileged information about this country. Yes, including in the state. I've heard my brother here speaking a lot about NRM, and he's a unique lady. I'm wondering, a person who has just joined NRM, the passion, the vigor he's speaking about NRM, he reminds me of you see when women who is when you have a new girlfriend, a girlfriend will speak all good things about you.
Well, kind of
yet you had there is another one who has just gone, and he had a lot of issues about you. So I just pray for my brother for safe journey. But back to the issue. In 1975, President Idi Amin declared himself the life presidency of this country, Uganda. By coincidence, President Museveni is a great admirer of President Idi Amin in the aspect.
Say that again.
He is a great admirer of the late President Idi Amin in the aspect of clinging on power.
Qualified.
Clinging on power. I do mean it. Amin was in power for about 7 years. 9 years.
9 to 10 years.
Museveni is now clocking to 40 in power. He's the greatest admirer of Amin in as far as clinging on power is concerned. And that is, yeah, you don't need even to contest that.
It is hugely contested.
No. So you want to say that Museveni he doesn't believe in being in power for long time?
No, he doesn't.
Okay, the viewers will understand. So, Mr. Museveni,
President Museveni,
he is not a Mrs. He's not a woman, so he's a Mr.
His
He's a man. Mr. Museveni, when we saw, for us as FDC, when we saw the tweet, the emergence of PLU, the emergence of Project Baby, I mean Muhoozi, for us we were never duped into this comedy. We knew, first of all, according to the privileged information I've told you that we always consume as a party, one, that it was an in-house game intended to build the confidence within the larger section of the public, especially the young people. Mr. Museveni and you see in NRM, my brother has been hitting on the structures in NRM, whatever. Those things doesn't work. Mr. Museveni has a system, a political bureau that advises him. Not the vice president, the cabinet, the SEC. Those are useless to him. Those are refining to him. The real people who actually do the day-to-day work is the political bureau. The political bureau advises him that the NRM has become too fatigued for the day-to-day running of the politics.
How much do we know about the makeup of that political bureau you talk about?
You don't need to. You don't need to. I think the best thing is to listen to what I'm telling you.
You're keeping the information secret.
To listen to what I'm telling you, maybe you'll get better. So the political bureau advised him to come up with a new outfit. Because we are living in a time when even the NRM Youth League is almost dead. It is on the drip. With due respect to my brother Gaddafi, but he's no longer in touch with my friends, whatever. Even when you converse with him, he will tell you that he's NRM, he belongs to the Youth League, but he rarely meet. So they are not engaged as young people within the NRM. So the NRM outrightly, it doesn't have a functional youth league as a political party in power. For me, I've traveled to many places in the world. I've interfaced with government in power. I know what a political party in power, a youth league, how it behaves, how it operates. But what we have in NRM, what you have in NRM, is not what I've seen and what I think a youth league in a ruling party must espouse. So, having identified that NRM, which last had their election in 2015, is really no longer in touch, is no longer attractive, and even it has made the party not to be attractive to the young people. You see the rate at which NRM has been losing in institutions of higher learning. It is really a clear example that the young people are no longer, the NRM is no longer attractive to the young people. So they decided to come up with a project called the Pilau, a project of the baby.
These are very many projects.
To attract,
Project Pilau.
Yes, the PLU. It is called the Pilau. So the Pilau.
The baby.
Yes, the same. Project Baby is Muhoozi. Muhoozi is the baby to Museveni.
So let's have this clear. Muhoozi is a baby.
Yes, they have just marked birthday for 50 years, 49. 49.
That's a
baby for baby Muhoozi. He's a baby to Museveni. So the arrangement was to attract the young people. That's why you saw they actually lined up musicians, powerful musicians, in order to attract the young people to the fold of NRM, but indirectly. So putting a war that Museveni is competing, and my brother has been clear, he has told you there is no conflict, which is true, between Museveni and the baby. So the intention was to attract the young people.
So maybe briefly, as we get into the break, is it in the interest of that classified political bureau for Project Muhoozi to pull out of the 2026?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you so much, colleagues, and thank you so much, viewers, for keeping it the Youth Roundtable. We head into a very short break and we shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that very short break. It is the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV. I am Philip Melissa. It's a heated debate, like you can see, and indeed the energy of the young people, but also the power that comes from the general. I think it's a combination of the military power and the spirit of the young people and the intention to make this country better that creates such kind of conversations. You see, we are still discussing the comments of the general, but also looking at the future of the country, especially at a time when we are heading into the 2026 general elections. I think we are less than a year into the campaigns and nomination stuff. I think it's the right time to discuss this. And I want to start this second segment with by reading some two tweets here. And Warid looks really hurting to say something, but I'm going to say it after his tweets. One of them is, in our faith, the faith of NRA/UPDF, if Muhoozi is Jesus Christ, then Afande Saleh is Saint Peter, he who has the keys to the kingdom of heaven. The rest of us are jobless apostles looking for positions in the afterlife. I'll read a second tweet. As for the corrupt and thieves, Muhoozi is going to get rid of all of them. We will not accept state capture in Uganda. There will be no Guptas here. Muhoozi knows that the revolution demands the removal of bad seed as a minimum. Roy.
Yes.
You see, and the reason I want to start with you is you have a background of diplomacy. When the CDF of this country, and I pay keen attention to state capture and the mention of the Guptas in the statement. You know the story of the Guptas in South Africa and the challenges they created for President Zuma at the time, including having him resign or leave the presidency. What do you read, and indeed, what implications can this draw for our country in terms of our relations with the South African government, but also particularly today where we know that President Zuma is back in the politics, so active, though not in any position, but his party is back in the politics and indeed on the opposition?
Well, our relationship with countries or various states is hinged legitimately on our relationship as espoused by our embassies and high commissions there. The diplomatic conversations that happen, the policy positions or the positions of our foreign ministry for foreign affairs and other missions are the basis upon which our friendship with nations is anchored. I don't think it would be fair to base that friendship on the tweet or on a post online to strengthen or even sever that friendship. But and this is to say that our relationship with South Africa has never been stronger. In fact, within a week or so, the head of state will be in South Africa to address an economic forum and have engagements with his counterpart there regarding our friendship and strategic interests on security, on trade, and other issues of our shared prosperity. Now, in the context, we need to contextualize what the CDF means by state capture and using the image of the Guptas in South Africa, whose workings are not a matter of private conversation, unlike Walid's hallucinations of the political bureau that must be kept as a secret society.
We consume intelligence.
Well, can debate, but unlike those hallucinations, this is public information, and no state wishes to be under state capture. No government should be under state capture. I think up to that extent, everyone should agree with the CDF. And the authority of Ugandans, or the authority of the state here, must be and is entirely derived from Article 1, which says that all power belongs to the people. Not a few people in a corner somewhere, not a political bureau that exists in the mind of my colleague, but in all the people of Uganda, the citizens of Uganda. And when the CDF says that there won't be Guptas, it is a statement to affirm Article 1 of the Constitution.
Yes, I like what you say, but look, the examples you choose to use as an individual, and indeed the person of the Chief of Defense Forces for this country, that's a very high-ranking office.
Yes.
When you choose to use examples such as that created challenges in a particular country, we know he also, in one of the tweets he uses, he relates to President Jomo Kenyatta in one of the recent tweets, and him being allegedly a son to Omukama Kabalega, and that is not something that also sits so well to a majority of Kenyans. Talk about his earlier relations to Russia and the war in Ukraine, but also the war in Tigray then in Ethiopia. These are examples that are not so good, especially at a time where politics in many of those countries is taking shape. Is it something so nice for a CDF? And it may not be General Muhoozi, it may be another CDF. Picking out such examples to create a balance in your own society?
Definitely, there are some of those things that are debatable. But as I started, and as the Minister of Foreign Affairs has once clarified, and in very unequivocal terms, is that our relationship and our diplomacy as a country is done in the context of our high commissions and embassies and the positions that are officially communicated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which derives its mandate from the Constitution to represent us on issues beyond our borders. And our positions on issues in Ethiopia, on issues like Russia, on issues in Palestine and Ukraine, on our relationship with Kenya, are all well-known positions, and they have been clearly stated and are indicative of our friendship with those countries and our strategic interest therein.
Thank you so much. Worried. I know you wanted to make a comment earlier, but also I want your view on this one. You see, in the earlier comments, there are schools of thoughts that say because of the comments he made and the support for probably Russia, reasons why, for example, Uganda was scrapped off the AGOA list, is reason for the series of sanctions we've seen come into the country, and he continues to make some of these comments that involve other countries. What does it mean for our country, especially for the security? Because we live in a region that is highly insecure. When you look around, Sudan, Southern Sudan, Kenya here, talk about Mozambique in the south, talk about Eritrea, talk about the DRC. It's a fragile region. When you have such comments that many people have termed reckless, what does it mean for our security? Especially when they come from a CDF.
Thank you very much. For us in FDC, we believe the reckless statement by the CDF polarizes the relations with our neighbors and even the development partners that we have. So it has a far-reaching consequence on our economic status as a country, and we believe that he did it politically to get the following and also become a center of conversation and discussion, both in the mainstream media, internally and local and international, which I think he has achieved, but it had the far-reaching consequence. But going back to the other issue, President Museveni, in my own view, wants to be the life president of this country, and whatever he has done, it has cemented that school of thought that he has. He only believes that the son will take over after his death.
Is that achievable?
According to him, it is achievable. According to FDC, it is not, and it will never be. And we shall do whatever that it takes to make it not a reality.
Like what are you going to do?
We have already, we are sensitizing Ugandans that it is upon Ugandans to stand up to the occasion, be counted, and rid off this dictatorship. The power is within the people, and the people have, our role is to provide leadership, to conscientize the population, and also to empower them that they have the capacity to stand up against this dictatorship and injustice that is committed by President Museveni, who believes that power is vested in him for eternity, and until on his death, the son will take over. So this is not a family business. It is not an empire where he just until death that he just give the mantle to what. So for us in FDC, we believe this must be stopped, and we are doing whatever that is within our reach to stop it. So the implication, it has an impact on delayed transition from President Museveni to any new leader, because for him, he doesn't have that calendar. He doesn't have that expiry date that I will expire as a president of this country by this date. He doesn't have it. That's why my colleague Gumayo is just following sheepishly. He doesn't. He's just following blindly without knowing that Museveni has no expiry date. And actually, I'm informing him. He is just learning it now. He doesn't know that Museveni has no expiry date, according to the information, the privileged information I have, and we have as FDC. That Museveni, and on his death, after his death, that the son is being prepared to take over from him, which we think will never happen.
Thank you, Warid, and I think maybe before I call in Trisha, Roy might want to say a thing in 1 minute about that particular. Are you following blindly or sheepishly? Like
as I said, these are hallucinations of my brother, but he must be forgiven, because this is the kind of democracy that NRM has created. It's okay to hallucinate. It's okay to make blanket statements. It's all within his protected
So
state.
when is Museveni leaving power?
Thank you.
Can you tell Ugandans at what stage Museveni is leaving power? In Ghana, the current president of Ghana is leaving by December. The party in power has prepared, the party in power has prepared the vice president, Dr. Muhammad Baumia, to take over. And he's the candidate.
But that's not how
No, you must.
Let me tell you how. Let me tell you when
Museveni in power for the last 40 years. You must have a cut-off point. At this point in time, Museveni is leaving power. But if we are now discussing the son saying, I'm not coming, the father is coming.
Museveni will be...
And you assure me that you are not following
Museveni will leave power in the January of next year. And Ugandans will have the right
You can even laugh at yourself.
to choose whoever they want
You
as
can
their
laugh
head
at
of
yourself.
state, whether to...
So he's
to-
not coming as a candidate. Assure Ugandans that Museveni is not coming as a candidate.
He has a right to come as a candidate.
No.
The election will happen
We are discussing transition.
The election will happen in
We are
2026.
discussing transition. Is Museveni leaving power?
Yes, he is.
He's not coming as a candidate of NRM.
The party has not chosen so.
So what was the son saying? Between the party and the son, who knows what Museveni thinks better? Between the party and the son.
No, now you are calling me to discuss your triviality.
Meaning
the hallucination.
I'm confirming
No.
that you are following NRM sheepishly and blindly because you don't
Thank
know
you, Warren.
what is
Thank
in the
you,
offing.
Warren. Let me
For
get
us
his
who are
conclusion
privileged
and-
with the political bill of NRM of Museveni, we know what is happening.
So in January of 2026, there will be an election, and Ugandans have a right to choose whoever they want. And by May, that person they will have chosen will swear in and take on the mandate up to 2031.
Thank you. And maybe just briefly as I bring in Trisha here, you talk about the bureau. How do you link up to the
These are
bureau?
hallucinations.
Do you have contacts in the bureau?
A party that wants power must be privileged to get information. Any serious party wants its name, like Forum for Democratic Party, Forum for Democratic Change, the party that I speak for. A serious party as FDC must have its eyes within the working of the state. Just like Museveni had eyes within the working of UPC in
So now
1980.
he's a good example.
So we are having our eyes there.
Wow.
If you a
Thank
party
you so much.
who doesn't have that intelligence information, then you are not good to go in as far as removal of that very system is concerned.
Thank you so much. Trisha, you see, we talk about the impact of the conversations on our interactions with foreign countries, and Rugumayo here assures us that our foreign missions are doing the job right to make sure that our image and our relationship with these countries is okay. And look, as I speak, we have two ambassadors in the country. One is a former ambassador to Canada, Her Excellency Joy Ruth Acheng. She was declared persona non grata in Canada for having made certain comments in that country, but also engaging in street activity that is not permitted in that land. And she's back in the country. The other is Ambassador Henry Mayenga from the United Arab Emirates. It is alleged that he set up a casino in the consulate of Uganda in that area, and he had to be recalled. These are the people that are working on our relationships out there. Should we trust that our missions are addressing some of the anomalies that may arise from the engagements we see?
Basically, looking at the statistics, I mean the information that has been going around and what has been happening, surely. I think if we trust the government, if we trust that we are surely being represented effectively, then we are heading for doom.
So that
If we trust that the effectiveness of our representation in the foreign countries is actually up to date and very good, then we are actually heading for doom.
what options do we have?
Well, the
Not to
options
trust.
the options we have, first and foremost, is one, we as the citizens of this country need to wake up and look forward to how best we can counterattack such. Because honestly speaking, we cannot live without foreign exchange in this country, Uganda. If we are looking at socio-economic development as a country, and then definitely we need these foreign investors, we need to interact, you get. So, but looking at what is happening right now, I think we need God to first coming.
Wow, and indeed God is a very common factor in the tweets of the general. Talk to me. Foreign relations, comments from the general, and indeed the support he gets from some of other cabinet state ministers and some cabinet ministers indeed about all the comments he makes. Are we guaranteed of a healthy relationship amongst members in the region, the global community, international organizations that manage the day-to-day affairs of the world?
You know, amidst all the institutions in Uganda that are not working, we also have diplomatic missions. First, I wonder actually what criteria Mr. Museveni uses to appoint these ambassadors.
He has the power
He
given
rewards-
by the
Exactly, he has the power and the
He
constitution.
rewards
but,
failures.
there is a
Political failures.
criteria that must be, you know.
Mm.
And this is why, actually, I would say one of the best ambassadors so far I've seen that is representing Uganda out there is His Excellency Adonia.
Mm.
And you know, it's very terrible and heartbreaking that diplomats like Roy here, they go to school, study, and they lack where to sit. And yet we have people out there who end up getting drunk in meetings, engaging in partisan politics. As a diplomat, one should remain neutral and front the interests of the country, which is not happening here. Young girls have been trafficked and none of the ambassadors out there is saying anything. So that is very terrible. And regarding the ministers you're saying that are supporting the general, in Uganda, actually our politics have this term of chigati. Everyone is like, how am I feeding my family? One of the problems that we have with our leaders.
Again, we have to feed our families.
We have to feed our families, but you know, Philip, once the people rally behind your back and they vote you into power, they have their expectations. Yes, you have to survive, your family has to survive, but you have to front the people. If you want to feed your family first, then leave public services.
Do business.
Do business. You go just like his leader is always saying, Mr. Museveni, the 4-acre model. 4-acre model. Go dig. But as long as you're in public service, you're supposed to work for the people. You're supposed to air out their views. This is why we have a dormant parliament. Most of them, they are in bed with the NRA government, so they have nothing to say. Billions and billions of money are coming in to keep them sash. And in the end, they'll be like, what am I leaving for my children? Leaving people. We don't have hospitals. We don't have roads. And who are supposed to say this? I personally, I can't access the floor of parliament. But once I vote for my leader, for my MP, I expect him to speak on my behalf. So it's very unfortunate that today's leaders are after their stomachs, and this is where they call it for God and my stomach. They are working for themselves.
At least the motto of the country I know is for God and my country. Worried. What does the future hold? When you look at the baby project, the Muhoozi project, Patriotic League of Uganda, MK movement, 2026, and indeed continuing, what does the future look like in the eyes of you and indeed the FDC?
First of all, the 40-year family rule of Museveni has successfully managed to hamstring, murder, kill key state institutions. All the institutions of the state are dead. So what the future holds to us is that we are going to take a lot, for us as if this is a party that is waiting anxiously to be in power, as well as yesterday. We believe that our first priority will be rebuilding, first of all, the trust of the citizen that the government can deliver to them. Secondly, building, we shall embark on a gruesome and expedition of building state institutions which has been murdered by the NRM, the 40-year-old NRM regime of Museveni. So the future, we believe that young people will have space where unemployment will be reduced. We are not saying it will be done away, but it will be reduced, and young people will have opportunities where they can really be employed and have better use of them. Young people like Roy, who keep on roaming in NRM, but they are very skilled, they are very competent people. I have no doubt. I've had a lot of interaction with him. We've shared a lot of spaces with him, but he's a misused, he's a misplaced resource to us as FDC. So we believe in the future when FDC will be in power, the Roy of our generation will have a better working environment that will help them even to get more, not only even the 4-acre models that Museveni keeps on telling people, which is really unachievable. So we believe the country will have leaders who will not be like the general, the royal Joy Acheng, the political failures who are just given jobs to survive in our foreign mission, and they become that they have made Uganda to be a laughing stock. So we believe that we shall have leaders, competent leaders in competent offices that will build the future of this country and the country. We shall do a lot in as far as repairing the economy is concerned. The economy is so now for the bourgeoisie.
Maybe you have a lot to do for this country. Maybe you should tell us, when is that going to happen? Just briefly.
Absolutely. For us, we don't have a timetable. And just like I saw my brother Roy was murmuring, he doesn't know when Museveni is leaving. For us, our project, whatever that we do, 24/7, our work is to prepare the peaceful removal of Museveni. So even as early as tomorrow, when Museveni is long gone, we shall embark on those projects.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rubegawarid. Kennedy, what does the future hold when you see all this that is happening, and indeed, what should we expect come 2026?
2026, with what we've seen over time, it's only going to help us, because the blood that will be shed on the streets will need people to clean it up. And all I can tell our people out there, to everyone out there, we shall continue seeing this NRM circus until we rise up. And I've just seen a tweet on 24th September, the Minister of Justice, Honorable Norbert Mao, is presenting that bill of MPs electing the president into power
Today.
On the floor of Parliament. No, on 24th, yeah, it's today. So you see where we are going, and we are all quiet. I expect my brother Roy, at least, he has been in these people and he knows what that bill can do. So I believe that in him, not all hope is lost. He'll surely come home and side with the oppressed.
See, Kennedy, and maybe if you allow me just briefly, as because we're out of time, what the bill will do is to help NRM, which is a political party, keep power, and that's the sole intention of a political party.
You see, the Constitution gives us power, and once you take out that power from the people have nothing to do. Right now, we don't have a parliament. We have an organ of the NRM government. It's an organ. So unless the people rise up to all these suckers, things will remain worse. We're already in the gutters. And I personally, I'm a young person, I have a lot of stuff to do, but I won't sit and watch all of us end up in a drain, in a sewage, tank, in a sewage pit. And I implore all our people to rise up and say enough is enough. This is the time. And as I close, I would say, St. Augustine says, and this is what he said, an unjust law is no law at all, which means I have a right and a duty to resist with violence or civil disobedience. And everyone should pray that I choose the latter. I choose civil disobedience.
Thank you. Violence or peaceful means. What is so interesting in that is it is from St. Augustine, which links it to spiritual belief, which goes back to God. And indeed, God is a key factor in all of these things. When you read the tweets, when you read everything, there is God somewhere. Trisha, what does the future look like? Briefly.
Wow. To me, the future is really blunt. The future, I could say, that looks to be bright days back or years back is no longer bright, especially for the young people. Looking at the current status quo of Uganda, I think it's high time we rose up to do better things, or first things first, which is first to deal with the corruption. Two, like my previous colleague said, there is no way you can keep adjusting the law and still believe in the law. You get? It is actually as good as nothing. If we do not regulate...
Come again, Trisha. The law is a making of the people.
Surely.
And we know that the people and their ways are subject to evolution and things will change.
Definitely.
Do you keep a 1900 law in 2024?
Obviously not, because with time, like I said, things change. But how do the things change? That is the main point. Is it on individual basis, or it is on a basis that everyone is consulted?
Who should determine that?
The government, which the government has been familiarized, like it is now a family organ. You get? So Ugandans do not have the right to participate in this making.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You need to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to add and say that the earlier we begin this, the better, because time is already out. And if we don't do anything, surely 2026, some of us may not even see it come.
What will happen?
What a statement. Roy.
God knows.
2026 is around the corner, the general is out, the old man is preferably coming back. How does it look like, and indeed for the future?
Well, there is no future without a past or even a present. But what Ugandans have to see today is that when you ask our colleagues in the FDC what their preoccupation and what their view of the future is, they will tell you that their sole purpose is the removal of President Museveni. That is their purpose.
Correct.
My colleague says when you ask about the future, he sees there will be a lot of bloodshed and it will take a lot of people to clean the streets. The same rhetoric they had on the eve of the protests against corruption at Parliament. Not even a rubber bullet was fired on anyone. The future of this country...
spent 6 years in the bush
the
fighting Obote regime. He never achieved it in a single day.
The future of this country has been set on the proper base of socio-economic transformation. The issues that were affecting this country, which we call the hindrances, the bottlenecks to socio-economic transformation, like electricity, a very poor road network, a very illiterate, uneducated, unhealthy mass, have been solved, have been addressed. Now, when people speak about unemployment, it points to the fact that some of these factors like education have been addressed. By the time people are saying, we are educated and we don't have jobs, it means first they were immunized and didn't die of the 6 killer diseases, and that they were given a universal education, primary and secondary, and have gone to tertiary institutions.
What is the statistics?
From the one institution that was there in 1986 to over 50, to the 56 universities that we have now, and over 200 tertiary institutions. It means sufficiently the masses have been brought up to the speed, to the needs of the current times. Now, this is what we are saying, that governments all over the world don't have the capacity to employ all people. No matter how big a government is, if you're to recruit everyone in the military, it's untenable. All you can have is maybe 800,000 armed officers, okay? If you're to have a public service, maybe 1 or 2 million people, okay? For a lean and efficient government. So there must be avenues created for meaningful employment. And that is why it was a very strong basis of the NRM to electrify the country, to have electricity. Now we have a surplus of electricity that can hugely influence modernization in as far as value addition is concerned, in as far as intensive and extensive agriculture is concerned. And in all that, there are opportunities. In all that, in the service sector, we have mentioned. In the modern agriculture, we add with Chivalo. In ICT, we have created the basis for meaningful socio-economic transformation. And from the 5 billions worth of our economy to over 60 billions today, we have created the foundation for a takeoff to 500 billions within the next decade. And that is the future of NRM, not the bleakness that my colleagues here are speaking about. And that is why in 2026, when Ugandans listen to our message of what kind of future we have for them, that does not rotate around removing one person, when they listen to what we have in stock for them, they will overwhelmingly vote for whoever candidate the NRM is going to front for president and all other positions.
We need to be news.
Roy Rugumayo, thank you so much for those views and for joining us today for the conversation. Mr. Warid Lubega, thank you so much for your views and for joining us for the conversation. Trisha Ayulu. Ayo. My apologies on not having your name so right. Thank you so much for joining us today and for the amazing conversations you give. And Makana Kennedy Ndiamuhachi, Violence of Peace. Thank you so much for your views and for joining us today. And you, our viewers, thank you so much for joining the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV today. Special thanks to the team behind the machines, and special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance for making sure all this is together. We continue to advocate for peace. I know recently we see an escalation between Lebanon and Israel. We know there is a war still going on in the Gaza Strip. The Ukraine situation is not yet addressed. Terrible situation in Sudan. Terrible situation in Southern Sudan, DRC, Niger, Chad. All these places, whoever can do something in their power to bring about peace in these regions, we say please do that, because for peace, with peace, we have sustainable development. Good evening, and may you have freedom always.